Be me, 28, QC lead at Apex Custom Machining. It's a fabrication shop, which means it's loud, hot, and smells like cutting fluid every single day. The whole place is coated in a thin film of machine grease. Floor, walls, your lungs, probably. I work out of a glass booth in the middle of it all. Climate controlled, quiet, mine. I've got my micrometers, my calipers, and a closed door between me and everyone else. That door is the best part of the job. My whole deal is simple. I check parts, I find the flaws, I want to be left alone. The shop runs on one thing, and that thing is fear of Vic. Vic owns the place. 6'3", hands like he could palm a bowling ball. He doesn't yell much, which is somehow worse. He fired a guy last spring for clocking in 2 minutes late. Didn't even raise his voice. During an audit last year, he bent a plastic clipboard in one hand while a state inspector watched. So, you learn to keep your head down and your tolerance is tight. This morning was different though. Vic killed the power to the floor and called everyone in for a meeting. He almost never does that. Time is money and meetings make no parts. We all gathered near the loading bay, 20-something guys covered in metal shavings. Vic stood there with his arms crossed and said he was bringing the shop into the digital age. 30 years of paper filing was getting scrapped. New head of operations starting today, he said. Then the side door opened, and in walked Elise. White blazer, designer heels clicking on the concrete, in a building where we cut raw steel. You could feel the floor go quiet in a different way. Vic said, "This is my daughter. She runs operations now. You answer to her like you answer to me." Then he walked off without another word. That's it. No speech, no warning. The second he was out of earshot, the muttering started. Old Pete leaned over to Dale and said, 3 weeks. She's gone in 3 weeks crying. Dale shook his head. 2. I'll put 20 on 2. They were practically shaking hands on it. Nepotism hire, boss's kid playing factory. Everybody already had the story written. I wasn't betting. I was just hoping this didn't end up in my queue somehow. I watched her from behind my glass. She didn't look nervous. She walked straight up to a milling machine that was leaking coolant and just looked at it. Didn't flinch at the mess. Didn't wrinkle her nose. She crouched down a little and studied the thing. And that's when I saw it. The same cold, sizing up stare Vic gives a part he's about to reject. Same focus. Same calculation behind the eyes. She wasn't decoration. She was measuring the room. One of the operators said something to her, probably a joke at her expense. She answered without looking at him, and he stopped smiling. I couldn't hear it through the glass, but I read his face fine. Pete and Dale exchanged a look that was a little less smug than before. I sat back down and pretended to recalibrate something I'd already calibrated. Not my problem, not my circus. I had a backlog of titanium fittings to inspect and zero interest in office politics. I told myself she'd burn out or get bored, and I'd never have to deal with her directly. I really believed that for about 3 days. Then her digitization project ran face first into my warehouse, and she came looking for the one guy who knew where everything was. 3 days in, and I figured I'd been right. She'd been spending most of her time upstairs, doing whatever you do with 30 years of paper. Then, Thursday morning, she came down to the floor with a tablet. She wanted to audit the raw titanium stock. I could see it coming before she even reached the racks. Pete and Dale drifted over to help her. That's when the trouble started. I was in my booth trying to calibrate the CMM. That machine needs quiet and a steady hand. I had neither, because the two of them were running a comedy routine 10 feet from my door. "Oh, you want the spider stock?" Pete said. "No, wait, that's the gray bar. Or is it the donkey?" "Could be the donkey," Dale said. "Depends if it's the old donkey or the new donkey." Elise stood there with her tablet, asking what the serial number was. They kept feeding her nicknames that don't exist on any invoice. Half the slang in this shop is real. Half of it is made up on the spot to mess with people. She wasn't getting flustered. She was just writing it all down, which made it worse because none of it was true. I tried to ignore it. I reset the probe, started the run again. Pete said something about the Widowmaker rack, and Dale laughed too loud. The probe drifted. My reading went out of spec. I sat there for a second with my jaw tight. Then I got up and opened the door. "Pete," I said, "that's bar stock. Lot ending in 4471. Grade 5 titanium, half-inch round." He looked at me like I'd ratted him out, which I had. "The gray bar is 4471. The donkey is 449, 6-inch plate. There's no spider stock. He made that up. Dale's grin went flat. You two have parts running, I said. Go run them. They went. Slow, but they went. Elise watched them walk off, then turned and looked at me. I already regretted opening the door. She followed me back toward the booth. I figured she'd thank me on the floor, and that'd be that. Instead, she came right in behind me and shut the door. That heavy glass door doesn't get shut by other people. That's sort of the whole point of it. She set her tablet on my workstation and leaned over it. How do you know all of that? She said. Off the top of your head. I checked the parts. The numbers matter when you check the parts. No, you corrected 2 of them before they finished the question. I shrugged. Every fitting in that warehouse comes through here, I said. I inspect it, I log it, I remember it. That's the job. She kept staring at me. It was the same look she gave the milling machine on day 1, like she was measuring me for tolerance. I don't memorize it for fun, I said. I do it because their nicknames change every week, and I'm the one who eats it when the count is wrong. Wrong how? Your audit comes out off by a few bars. Purchasing orders the wrong stock. Then it hits my queue as a discrepancy, and I'm chasing ghost parts for a week. She nodded slowly, like I'd just confirmed something she suspected. Then she picked up the tablet and started tapping. What are you doing? I said. Fixing my problem, she said. Those 2 are useless to me. You're not. I have my own work. You'll have your work and mine. She turned the screen toward me for half a second. My name was on it, under some heading I couldn't read fast enough. I'm overriding your schedule, she said. Effective now, you're my systems translator, Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can't just do that. My father signs your check. I can do that. She tucked the tablet under her arm and smiled, calm and a little pleased with herself. Thank you for the serial numbers, she said. We'll go through the rest of the warehouse together. Then she opened my door, walked out, and left it standing wide open behind her. I stood there with my ruined calibration and a brand new problem, alone in an empty warehouse, after hours, with Vic's daughter. I didn't see how that ended anyway, but badly. The first late session was the following Tuesday. I'd spent the whole day trying to talk myself out of dreading it. Didn't work. 5 o'clock came, and the floor cleared out. Pete and Dale gave me a look on their way to the lot. Pete said, "Long night, huh?" And I didn't dignify it. By 6, the shop was quiet in a way it never is during the day. Just the hum of the lights and the compressor cycling somewhere. Elise came down the stairs at 6 on the dot, carrying a cardboard tray. She set it on my workstation. One cup was tall and had some handwritten label on the side. The other was a plain black coffee. She slid the black one toward me. Figured you for boring, she said. It's accurate. The tall one was hers, something with about 4 extra words in the name. You drove somewhere for that, I said. There's a place by my apartment. I'm not drinking the break room sludge. I let it go. We started on the back racks, the deep stock nobody touches for months. She had her tablet, I had the actual knowledge, and we worked the rows 1 bin at a time. I'd call out a number, she'd find it or flag it, and we'd move on. It went faster than I expected. About an hour in, she stopped and looked at me. Can I say something about the guys on this floor? She said. You're going to anyway. They treat me like I'm a problem to wait out. Every one of them. Some of them, yeah. It's the whole act. The slang, the betting pool, all of it. They'd rather lose money than take me seriously. I leaned against the rack. You're wearing white silk in a building that cuts steel, I said. You walked in looking. Like you got lost on the way somewhere nicer. That's part of it. She raised an eyebrow. So I should dress down to be taken seriously. I'm saying they read it as you, not knowing where you are, whether that's fair or not. She didn't argue. She just wrote something down, which I was starting to learn meant she'd actually heard me. We kept going. Somewhere along the way it stopped feeling like a sentence I was serving. She asked good questions. When I explained the difference between anodized aluminum and brushed steel, she didn't nod politely and move on. She made me back up and explain why anodizing changes the surface. Then she typed for a solid minute, fast. You like this, I said. I like understanding things. The paper records made no sense. You make sense. I didn't know what to do with that, so I called out the next bin number. We got to the tall racks near the end. There was a barcode on a high shelf, just past where she could reach. I went to grab the scanner off the cart. She didn't wait. She stepped in close and reached up across me for it herself. Her arm went right past my chest. I caught the smell of whatever the coffee place had put on her, mixed in with the oil that's in everything here. She stretched, scanned the code, and the reader beeped. For a second, she didn't step back. Neither did I. Then I remembered exactly where we were. There are cameras on the ceiling in this place. 4 of them cover the back racks, and every one of them feeds straight up to Vic's office. I took a step sideways and pretended to check the scanner display. "Got it," she said, like nothing happened. Maybe nothing did. I looked up at the corner camera anyway, at that little black dome. I couldn't tell if it was recording. I couldn't tell if anyone was watching. And I really didn't like that I'd have to wonder that twice a week now. It happened on a Wednesday, which wasn't even one of our nights. Just a normal day, peak production, every machine running. I was in my booth checking a batch of bushings when I heard the line go. A coolant hose on one of the big CNC machines blew at the fitting. Pressurized synthetic oil, the kind that doesn't wash off your boots for a week. It sprayed across the floor and started spreading toward the main aisle. That stuff is slick. You can't walk on it. I looked up and saw the puddle creeping out under the machine. Then I saw Elise coming down the aisle straight toward it. She had her tablet out, head down, checking something. She had no idea it was there. And worse than that, Marco had a forklift loaded with plate stock coming the other way. He hit the brakes when he saw the oil. The forklift didn't stop. It started sliding. I don't remember deciding to move. I was out of the booth and across the floor before the thought finished. I got to her right as her foot reached the edge of the slick. I grabbed her around the waist and pulled. We went backward together, hard. The forklift skated through the exact spot she'd been standing in and slammed into a rack. Plate stock crashed down where her feet had been. We hit a supply cage and stopped. My back took the chain link. I had her tucked in against me, away from the splash. Oil and coolant sprayed across the floor in front of us. Some of it caught my arm. None of it caught her. For a second, neither of us moved. I could feel her breathing fast against my chest. Her hands were gripping my shirt, twisted up in the fabric. I looked down, and she was already looking up, not at the wreck, not at the forklift, at me. Her face was close enough that I could feel her breath. Her eyes dropped to my mouth and stayed there. She didn't let go of my shirt. She didn't step back. I knew I should move. I couldn't make myself do it. The whole shop was somewhere behind me. Machines, people, noise. It all went thin and far away. Then Vic's voice came down from the catwalk. "Everybody good down there?" Loud enough to cut straight through everything. I dropped my hands like the cage had gone live. I stepped back so fast, I almost went down on the oil myself. "Fine," I called up. "We're fine. Line blue." I didn't look at him. I was looking anywhere but at her. Elise pushed off the cage slowly. She looked down at her jacket, where the chain link had snagged it. There was a long pull in the sleeve and a black smear across the front. She brushed at it once and gave up. "Get a mat down on that. Before someone breaks their neck," Vic called. "On it," I said. He moved off down the catwalk. I finally looked at her. She wasn't shaken. She wasn't grateful exactly. She looked annoyed, not at me, at the interruption, like Vic had walked in on the middle of something and ended it. "You okay?" I said. "I'm fine," she said. "That was good timing." "Yeah." She smoothed the ruined jacket one more time, then looked right at me. "You move fast," she said. I didn't have anything for that. She held the look a second longer than she needed to, then walked off to find Marco, who was still sitting frozen on the forklift. I went and got the absorbent mats from the supply closet. My hands weren't steady. I told myself it was the adrenaline. I spread the mats over the spill and stood there longer than the job needed. The thing I couldn't get past wasn't the forklift. It was that she hadn't pulled away. And I wasn't sure I had either until Vic made me. The next morning I came in expecting the usual. Pete and Dale running their mouths, Elise upstairs with her paper. What I got instead stopped me at the door. Elise was already on the floor. But she wasn't in the blazer. She had on jeans that were actually worn in, not bought looking worn. A flannel shirt with the sleeves pushed up, and steel-toed boots, the real kind, scuffed at the toes. She was crouched by the same milling machine from day one, checking something on her tablet. The whole floor had gone quiet, not the careful quiet from before, just stunned. Pete stood at his station with a part in his hand, not running it. Dale was openly staring. Elise didn't look up. She just kept working like nothing was different. I went to my booth and tried to mind my own business. It lasted about an hour. The day ran normal after that mostly. The guys didn't know what to do with the new version of her, so they said less. That night was a session night. By 6 the floor was clear, and it was just us again. She came down with the coffee tray like always, black for me, the fancy one for her. But she'd also stopped on the way and grabbed a pizza, cheap stuff, the kind from the place near the gas station. She set the box on top of a wooden shipping crate by the back racks. "Inventory can wait 20 minutes, she said. I wasn't going to argue with free pizza. We ate standing up, using the crate as a table. The banter we usually had didn't show up. She was quiet, picking at the crust. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You're going to anyway." She didn't smile at it. "Do you think my dad gave me this job because he felt sorry for me?" I stopped chewing. "I don't know your dad like that," I said. "I keep thinking he made it up, the whole position, just to give me somewhere to go." "Why would he do that?" "Because I needed it, and he's my father." She set the crust down. "Everybody on this floor already decided I'm a charity case. Some nights, I think they're right." I didn't answer right away. Then I went over to the booth and unlocked the bottom drawer. I keep things in there that nobody needs to see. I pulled out the gear. It was titanium, machined clean, the teeth perfect to look at. I set it on the crate next to the pizza. "You know who made that?" I said. "No. Doesn't matter. One of the best guys we ever had. 20 years on the floor." She picked it up and turned it over. "It's beautiful." It failed inspection. The pitch diameter was off by a few microns. You'd never see it. I caught it on the CMM. She ran her thumb over the teeth. "He made an expensive mistake, and the part went in my drawer," I said. "Nobody called him a charity case." She didn't say anything. "And your software," I said. 2 weeks ago it flagged a double order on the grade 5 stock. Purchasing was about to buy 40 bars we already had. That was the system. That was the system you built. 40 bars of titanium is real money. You saved it. I watched that land. She set the gear down carefully, like it still mattered that it was fragile. "You're not a charity case," I said. "You'd know it if you were. I'd have a worse week every week." That got the corner of her mouth to move. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in here," she said. "It's just true." She looked at me for a second. Then she reached over and wiped her thumb along my cheek. "You had grease," she said. Her hand didn't drop right away. It stayed at my heel. Jaw, just resting there, longer than wiping grease takes. I didn't move, neither did she for a moment. Then she pulled back, picked up the pizza box, and folded the lid shut. "We should finish the back racks," she said. Her voice was normal again. We worked another hour and she left a little after 8. I locked up and stood in the parking lot for a minute. I could still feel where her thumb had been. And I knew, standing there, that the cameras were the least of my problems now. The rush order came in on a Friday. A big aerospace client needed parts by Monday, no exceptions. Vic called a Saturday shift, which he almost never does. He hates paying weekend rates more than he hates anything. But the money on this order was bigger than his stinginess. So, Saturday morning, a skeleton crew came in. Vic, me, Elise, and 3 operators. The floor felt strange with so few people on it. Half the machines dark, the other half running flat out. The order was tight, no room for mistakes. I ran quality checks as fast as the parts came off. Vic worked a machine himself, which I'd almost never seen. And Elise ran the floor. She kept the operators fed with stock. She tracked what was done and what was left on her tablet. Every time someone needed material, it was already there. She didn't fumble once. By early afternoon, we were ahead of schedule. Vic actually grunted something that wasn't a complaint. For him, that's a standing ovation. There was a lull around 2, waiting on a batch to finish a long cycle. I needed a minute away from the noise. I went back to the raw materials cage at the far end of the floor. It's the quietest spot in the building when the machines are loud. I leaned against a rack of brass pipe and just breathed for a second. Then I heard the cage door swing. Elise came in and pulled it shut behind her. The machine noise dropped to a hum. "We're crushing it," she said. She was buzzing, worn out and wired at the same time. "You're crushing it?" I said. "The floor's never run this clean." "I know," she grinned. "Did you see my dad's face when we hit the halfway mark ahead of time? He almost smiled. Could have been gas." She laughed, and it was a real one. She set her tablet down on a crate and stepped closer. I knew the look by now. It was the one from the supply cage after the forklift, the one from the booth with her thumb on my jaw. She came right up into my space. I had the brass rack at my back and nowhere to go. She put a hand flat on my chest, over the shirt. "You did good today too," she said. "Just so you know." Her face was close. She tilted it up. She wasn't hiding what she wanted anymore. She was waiting for me to do the rest. I gripped the metal shelving behind me with both hands. Every part of me wanted to lean in. I made myself lean back instead. "Elise," I said. "I can't. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Your dad is 50 feet away. He's running a CNC. He's not thinking about us. That's not the point." She didn't move back. "Then what's the point?" "I need this job," I said. "Not want it, need it, rent, all of it. If your father finds out his daughter and his QC tech are doing this on his floor, I'm done. There's no version where I survive that." She let out a long breath, frustrated. "You're overthinking it," she said. "You think I'd let him fire you over me. I think you don't know what he'd do, neither do I. I know him better than you, and I know what it looks like from where I stand." She stepped back finally. She picked her tablet up off the crate. "You're not wrong to be careful," she said, "but you're so busy being careful, you're going to miss the whole thing." "Maybe. Not maybe." She pulled the cage door open. "I'm not the one who's scared, and we both know it." She walked out and let the noise back in. I stood there with my hands still on the cold shelving. She was right, and that was the part that got me. I wasn't holding back because I didn't want her. I was holding back because I did, and it terrified me. The cycle finished and the buzzer went. I made myself walk back out to the floor. Vic looked up from his machine as I passed. "Where's my daughter?" he said. "Pulling the next batch," I said, and kept walking. He watched me go a second longer than he needed to. I didn't slow down to find out why. Tuesday started normal. Then around 10, the floor lit up. Hendrix was running a batch of aerospace brackets on the big 5 axis. $20,000 of grade 5 titanium, already cut. I heard him before I saw the parts. He came off the machine swearing, holding a bracket up. The bores were in the wrong place. The whole batch was scrap. He didn't go quiet about it. "It's the software," he said, loud, to the whole floor. Her system scrambled my numbers. I loaded the program, and it cut wrong. Heads came up at every station. Elise was over by the racks. She froze. "That code's been glitching all week," Hendrix went on. "I told people. Nobody listened." He hadn't told anybody anything. I'd have heard. But he was selling it hard, and a few of the guys were nodding. Then Vic's office door banged open. He came down the stairs fast for a man his size. "What happened?" he said. Hendrix held up the bracket. "Her program," he said. "Cut the bores 3 inches off. Scrapped the whole run." Vic looked at the parts. Then he looked at Elise. "I knew it," he said. "I knew these computers were a mistake. 30 years we did it on paper and never lost a batch like this." Elise opened her mouth. Nothing came out fast enough. "You can't prove it didn't glitch right now, can you?" Vic said. She couldn't, not standing there with no machine in front of her. "That's it," Vic said. "I'm pulling the whole system, back to paper." The floor went still. Everybody watching her take it. She stood there with her face going tight, and she didn't have an answer. That was the part I couldn't sit through. I came out of the booth with the diagnostic laptop under my arm. "Give me 10 minutes, I said. Vic turned. "What?" 10 minutes, before you scrap anything." I went to the 5-axis and jacked into the controller port. Hendrix stepped back. "What's he doing?" "Pulling the logs," I said. "Every machine on the floor keeps a record. Every program loaded, every manual edit, every keystroke at the panel. Operators forget that. Most of them don't even know it's there." Vic came and stood right behind me. I could feel him breathing over my shoulder. The logs were buried in the service menus. I had to walk the export through 3 menus. My hands wanted to shake and I wouldn't let them. Nobody said a word. The compressor cycled somewhere behind us. The file opened. I scrolled to the runtime on Hendrix's batch, and there it was. "Here's the program load," I said. "Elise's system pushed it at 942. Bore coordinates correct. I can show you the values." I turned the screen so Vic could see. "Now look here," I said. 948, manual override at the panel. Somebody skipped the probing cycle and loaded the previous fixture's Y offset. Vic leaned in. "He reads a screen slow, but he reads it." "The software loaded the part right," I said. "Then it got edited on the floor, at the machine. Afterload. Anybody could've, Hendricks started. It logs the operator badge, I said. It's yours. The floor was dead quiet now. Vic straightened up. He looked at Hendricks. You overrode it, he said. It wasn't a question. I was trying to save cycle time, Hendricks said. I've done it for years. The offset's always... You blamed her system, Vic said. In front of my whole floor. Hendricks didn't have anywhere to go with that. Vic looked at the laptop again, then at me. You're sure on this, he said. You're staking it. I'm staking it, I said. The code was clean. The man at the panel wasn't. I knew what I was doing. I'd just called out a 20-year operator in front of everybody, crossed the crew, and bet my reputation on a kid's software. If I was wrong on a single number, I was finished here. But I wasn't wrong. I'd read the log twice. Vic stared at me a long moment. Then he turned to Hendricks. Clean up your scrap, he said. We'll talk in my office. He looked back at the screen, at Elise's name on the clean load line. He didn't say anything about that. He just grunted and walked off. The floor slowly started moving again. I unhooked the laptop and stood up. Elise was looking at me from across the aisle. Not relief, something heavier than that. I didn't hold the look. I had parts in my queue. I went back to the booth and shut the glass door. My heart was going hard and I let it, now that nobody could see. I'd spent weeks telling her I needed to play it safe, and I'd just thrown all of it out in 10 minutes, for her, in front of her. Father. There was no pretending that was about clean code. I packed up my gear at 9 that night. The floor had been empty for hours. My hands were still doing that thing, where they shake a little when there's nothing left to do. The adrenaline from the morning had never fully drained. Crossing Hendricks, staring Vic down over a laptop. It had stayed in my system all day. I shut off the booth lights and locked the glass door behind me. The lot was dark except for the one good lamp over the entrance. I figured if anyone wanted payback, I'd find it on my car. A flat tire, a keyed door. Hendricks knew where I parked. I walked out expecting something like that. Instead, I found Elise leaning against the hood of my sedan. She still had the flannel and the boots on. She'd been waiting a while, by the look of it. I slowed down. You're going to dent my hood, I said. This car's already dented everywhere. It's got character. She pushed off the hood and stood up straight. She didn't move toward me. She just looked at me across the few feet of asphalt. Why did you do that today? She said. Do what? You know what? Don't make me say all of it. I set my tool bag down on the ground. He was about to scrap your whole system, I said. The logs were right there. Somebody had to pull them. Anybody could have pulled them. You did it, in front of my dad. After weeks of telling me you couldn't even stand next to me on his floor. I didn't have a clean answer ready. You said it yourself, she went on. You need this job. You play it safe. You keep your head down. I know what I said. Then explain it to me, because you just bet your whole career on me, and I want to know why. The shaking in my hands hadn't stopped. I was tired of arguing the careful version of things. I crossed the distance between us. She didn't step back this time either. I stopped playing it safe a while ago, I said. Around the time you started bringing me coffee I don't even like. You drink it every time. That's not the point. I reached up and took hold of the lapels of her flannel jacket. She let me. She didn't pull away. I've been telling you no for weeks, I said. I was lying to both of us. Then I kissed her. She came up off her heels and kissed me back right away. Her hands went around my neck and the flannel bunched in my fists. All that adrenaline I'd been carrying since morning finally had somewhere to go. She tasted like the coffee she always carried. I forgot about the camera dome. I forgot about Vic's office windows above us. For once, I didn't care who was watching. We broke apart and neither of us let go right away. She kept her arms around my neck. I kept hold of her jacket. We were both breathing like we'd run somewhere. Took you long enough, she said. You have no idea. I have some idea. I was standing in that cage. I laughed, low, and rested my forehead against hers. The lot was quiet, just the hum off the highway somewhere past the fence. This is a problem, I said. It's a problem you started in a parking lot under my dad's office. I pulled back and looked up at the building. The office windows were dark, no light, no silhouette. He's gone home, she said. I checked before I came out. I'm not stupid. I never said you were. She let her arm slide down off my neck. She didn't step away, though. So that's it, she said. No more careful. I can't pretend the morning didn't happen, I said. And I can't pretend this didn't either. Good. I picked my tool bag back up off the ground. My hands had finally gone steady. "There's no going back to normal after this," I said. "There was never a normal," she said. "You just like believing there was." She had a point, and I let her keep it. She walked to her own car a few spaces down. Before she got in, she looked back at me. "Tuesday," she said. "Same time. We still have racks to finish." "Inventory," I said. "Inventory." Neither of us meant inventory. I sat in my car for a minute before I started it. Everything I'd built my whole approach to this job around was gone now. The booth, the closed door, the head down. I'd traded all of it in a parking lot, and I wasn't sorry. The only thing left to figure out was how long we could keep it quiet. And I already knew the answer to that wasn't long. For 2 weeks we ran the perfect crime. Or what I thought was the perfect crime. We kept it. Off the floor. No looks, no lingering, none of that. During the day she was head of operations and I was the QC tech, same as always. But we'd sneak out to a diner 2 towns over after my shift. The kind of place where nobody from the shop would ever walk in. We'd get coffee and bad pie and talk for an hour like normal people. Sometimes in the supply aisle, when the floor got loud and busy, I'd catch her hand for a second between the racks. Quick, then back to work. I'd convinced myself we were getting away with it clean. I should have known better in a building full of cameras. It was a Thursday when the intercom crackled. "Send the QC tech up to my office." Vic's voice, flat as ever. The whole floor heard it. A couple of heads turned my way. I set down the gauge I was holding and stood up slow. Pete watched me come out of the booth and didn't say anything for once. That's how I knew it was bad. The stairs up to the office are metal and they ring under your boots. I climbed them like a man going up to get sentenced. I was already rewriting my resume in my head, trying to remember which shops were hiring and which ones Vic hadn't blacklisted. I knocked on the office door and he told me to come in. Vic was behind his desk, tapping a pen against the wood. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. I stood there and let him do it. The office is small, just a desk and a couple of filing cabinets and the window down onto the floor. "Sit," he said. I sat. He kept tapping the pen. I kept waiting. "You know why you're up here?" he said. "I've got a few guesses." "Give me your best one." I wasn't going to lie to the man. Lying to Vic is how you make it worse. "Then I'd rather hear it from you," I said. He set the pen down. He turned his monitor around to face me. My stomach dropped because I knew exactly what footage they kept up here. I braced for the parking lot, or the supply aisle. One of the times I'd grabbed her hand, but it wasn't that. It was the floor, the 5-axis. 2 weeks ago, me with the diagnostic laptop, Hendrix backing away, the whole thing. The audio was rough, but you could hear me staking it. You could hear me call out his badge on the override. Vic let it play, then he clicked to another clip. The next morning, Elise coming across the floor with 2 coffees, setting the black one on my workstation through the booth door, then walking off. Nothing more than that. But it was enough. He stopped the video and looked at me again. "You want to tell me what I'm looking at?" he said. "Looks like me defending good work," I said. "And your daughter bringing coffee. That all it is?" I had a choice right there. I could fold. Tell him it was nothing, it wouldn't happen again, keep my job, and lose her. I thought about the rent, the blacklist, all of it. Then I thought about the parking lot and her telling me I'd missed the whole thing. "No," I said. "That's not all it is." Vic didn't move. "I'm seeing your daughter," I said. "Started 2 weeks ago. Outside work mostly. I'm not going to pretend I'm not." I waited for the explosion, for the clipboard, except I was the clipboard this time. He just stared at me, waiting for me to take it back. I didn't take it back. I held the look the same way I'd held it over the laptop. He leaned back in his chair, and the whole thing creaked. He let out a long breath through his nose. "You stood on my floor and bet your job to save her project," he said. "In front of my whole crew." "Yes." Most guys would have kept their mouth shut and let her hang. "The logs were right," I said. "Somebody had to read them." "You didn't read them for the company." He said it plain. "You read them for her." I didn't argue. There wasn't a point. He reached over and shut the monitor off. "My daughter's been let down by every smooth talker she ever brought home," he said. "Guys with better cars than you and worse spines." I kept quiet. "You've got a bad car," he said. "But you stood up when it cost you something. I saw it." I wasn't sure where this was going. I just knew I was still sitting down. "So, "Here's how this goes," Vic said. He leaned forward, both forearms on the desk. "You treat her right, you keep your work clean, and if you ever make that girl cry, the CMM in your booth won't be the only thing in this shop I take apart." It took me a second to understand I wasn't getting fired. "Understood," I said. "Good." He picked the pen back up. "Get back to work. You've got a cue." I stood. My legs weren't completely steady. I made it to the door before he spoke again. "And tell her the diner 2 towns over isn't as clever as you both think," he said, not looking up. "Her mother and I used to go there." I didn't have anything for that. I went down the ringing stairs with my job intact and my secret gone. The floor looked up at me, waiting to see if I'd been gutted. I walked back to my booth like nothing happened, but I caught Elise's eye across the aisle. She raised her eyebrows, asking the obvious question. I gave her the smallest nod I could manage. She turned back to her tablet and tried not to smile. We weren't a secret anymore. And somehow, for the first time in weeks, that didn't scare me. 6 months changed the place more than I expected. Elise's system runs the whole floor now. Every bin, every bar, every program tracked clean. The veterans stopped fighting it once they saw it made their day easier. Hendricks got a written warning and a short suspension and came back quieter. These days, he calls her by her name and means it. I'm not in the booth anymore. Vic moved me to floor manager 2 months back. I still keep my micrometers, but mostly I run the crew now. I miss the closed glass door some days. Not as many as I thought I would. Tonight isn't a work night. Tonight is Sunday dinner at Vic's house. I drove out to the suburbs with both hands tight on the wheel. I've inspected aerospace parts under audit with steadier hands than this. Vic's house is big. Brick, a long driveway, a lawn somebody clearly takes seriously. I parked behind Elise's car and sat there a second before I got out. She opened the front door before I could knock. She had on a nice dress, dark blue, hair down, but there was a small grease smudge on the inside of her wrist. "You checked your oil before dinner," I said. "It was a quart low," she said. "Don't start." "I'm just saying, dress in a dipstick." She pulled me inside by the hand. The house smelled like roast and something baking. It was warm and quiet, and that made me more nervous, not less. "He's been in the kitchen all afternoon," she said. "Relax." "I'll relax when I leave with all my limbs." "He likes you. He just doesn't do faces." We went through to the dining room. The table was set properly, cloth napkins, the whole thing. I stood there not sure where to put my hands. Then Vic came out of the kitchen. He was wearing an apron, a floral one, with little blue flowers on it, tied around his huge frame. I didn't say a word. I value my life. He was carrying a roast on a board with a carving knife. "Sit," he said. "Both of you." We sat. He set the roast down and started carving. I'd watched this man cut titanium for clients who pay a fortune for precision. He carved the beef the exact same way. Even slices, all the same width, laid out clean on the board. "You drink wine," he said. Not really a question. "Sometimes," I said. "There's a bottle open. Help yourself." Elise poured for both of us. Under the table, she found my hand and laced her fingers through mine. I held on and tried to look normal about it. Vic finished carving and sat down at the head of the table. For a minute, nobody said much. Forks and plates and the clock on the wall. Then Vic looked over at me. "Pass the horseradish," he said. I passed it. He spooned some onto his plate, then kept talking like we were on the floor. "That new titanium stock came in Friday," he said. "The Belgian lot." "I saw the paperwork," I said. "Cheaper than our usual." "What's your read on it?" I set my fork down. "Haven't run any yet," I said. "Cheaper raw stock can mean material problems. I'd want the certs verified, and the first article run through the CMM before we promise anything to the aerospace guys." Vic nodded slowly, chewing. "That's what I told purchasing," he said. "Run it, then talk." It took me a second to understand what just happened. He wasn't quizzing the kid dating his daughter. He was asking his floor manager what he thought, same as he'd ask any man he trusted with the place. Elise squeezed my hand under the table. I squeezed back. "We'll run it Monday," I said. "I'll have numbers for you by lunch." "Good," Vic said. He went back to his plate. Elise was trying not to smile again, the same way she did on the floor that day. She didn't quite manage it this time. I looked around the table, the big man in the flower apron, the woman holding my hand, the roast cut to spec. A year ago, I wanted nothing more than a closed door between me and all of this. Now, I was passing the horseradish to the scariest man I know and arguing titanium with him over dinner. "Eat," Vic said, not looking up. "It gets cold. That's on you." So I ate.